Today, I will be discussing wide receivers that you should be avoiding in your 2020 drafts. Let's get to it. First up on today's list is DeVante Parker. I know people were finally happy with him because for like 5 years now, he was supposed to break out, and he finally did last season. But there's several factors trending in the wrong direction for him going into this year, and a lot of it has to do with volume. Their new quarterback in Tua. Great story, great guy, great player. But regardless of all of that, he will be building up chemistry with a new quarterback. And successful rookie quarterbacks usually throw to the open man. They don't usually try to throw to their main wide receivers open, like how Tony Romo made a living his whole career. Spreading the wealth is more likely to happen with Tua at QB, especially in his rookie season, compared to gunslinging Ryan Fitzmagic, who had no problem throwing for 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Second point, Mike Gesicki will be used more in the offense this year. In my next video, I'll talk about how much I love Gesicki as a breakout tight end this year, and the Dolphins have been talking about getting him more involved in the receiving game by lining him up in the slot more often than last season. My final and most important point. Preston Williams back and healthy is bad news for DeVante Parker truthers. Yes, Preston Williams is coming off an ACL tear, but the fields of medicine and physical therapy are so advanced nowadays, players are returning to play quicker, faster, and stronger than ever. So we're going to dive into some stats. Preston Williams, weeks 1 through 9, 9.4 fantasy points per game as the wide receiver 39. DeVante Parker, weeks 1 through 9, with Preston Williams. 9.8 fantasy points per game, and he was the wide receiver 34. They both put up very similar stats through the first 9 weeks of the season, and there was talk about how DeVante Parker might not even be the best wide receiver on his own team. Preston Williams was getting praise from everyone as a rookie. Unfortunately, his season came to an early end when he tore his ACL. Then, DeVante Parker emerged. DeVante Parker, weeks 10 through 17, after Preston Williams tore his ACL. 16.5 fantasy points per game as a wide receiver 2. He had 76 targets in these 8 games, compared to 52 in his first 8 games. Preston Williams' targets in those 8 games, 60. Preston Williams was receiving more targets. After Preston Williams got injured, DeVante Parker was the go-to guy for Fitz, and it doesn't seem like that's going to happen anymore. I'm recommending that you fade DeVante Parker this year, especially for where he's being drafted right now in the middle of the 5th round. Up next is Courtland Sutton. Oh, how I hate to put Courtland Sutton on this list. One of the very best late-round picks and waiver wire pickups of the 2019 season. The Broncos added more weapons in the draft with Alabama stud wide receiver Jerry Jeudy and second-round speedster wide receiver KJ Hamler out of Penn State. Oh, and we can't forget the addition of Melvin Gordon. Let's look at Sutton's 2019 season. He had 72 receptions, over 1,100 receiving yards, and 6 receiving touchdowns on 125 targets. This made him good enough to end his season as a wide receiver 2. With Drew Lock at quarterback, Sutton averaged 2.1 less fantasy points per game. To be fair, Lock did show promise and he didn't force a lot of throws, and the Broncos ended last year winning 4 out of their last 5. The first game Lock and Sutton played together, Sutton scored twice. But over the next 4 weeks, weeks 14 through 17, Sutton was the wide receiver 48. 48, averaging just 7.4 fantasy points per game. Now, Lock didn't throw the deep ball, something that Courtland Sutton excelled in. While I really hope that this isn't a sign of things to come because Sutton is turning into an elite talent. The current asking price for drafting a Broncos #1 wide receiver is too high. Pat Shurmur may be good for Sutton in that he likes to push it downfield, but with more mouths to feed this year compared to last, and with a young quarterback, there are better values early in the 4th round. Now let's talk about some Chargers wide receivers. That's right, 2 Chargers wide receivers, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. There's a lot of unknown with how the quarterback change will turn out and how the offense will look without Phillip Rivers. But I think we can all agree that even though Phillip Rivers' play was declining, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams were much better off with Rivers than both Tyrod Taylor and Justin Herbert. Keenan Allen was getting 9 to 10 targets a game for the past 3 years, and Mike Williams was a big body position wide receiver that Rivers trusted on jump balls. Chemistry is going to be an issue with whoever the new QB is. The offense is going to be much worse than it was last year, and the Chargers will depend on slowing the game down more so their defense can keep them in games. Mike Williams' touchdowns and yards have varied more than just about any player you can find in today's NFL. TD regression was definitely in store for Mike Williams' 2019 season. He had 49 receptions, 1,001 receiving yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns. Now, you have to wonder if the return of Hunter Henry had something to do with his touchdown numbers just dropping off a cliff. And Keenan Allen, he is a great route runner, but he really depended on that timing with Rivers that they developed over years for his production. Keenan Allen had 104 receptions, almost 1,200 receiving yards, and 6 receiving touchdowns. There are just better picks at each of their ADPs. Keenan Allen is going in the 4th round. I mean, he's going right between A.J. Brown and Calvin Ridley. I'll take both of those players this season over Keenan Allen with Tyrod Taylor or Justin Herbert at quarterback. Mike Williams, he's going in the 9th round. I just think you should look elsewhere in rounds 4 and 9. In the 4th round, there's safer picks, and in the 9th round, there are plenty of players with superior ceilings. If you want more quality content to help you crush your league, subscribe so you don't miss anything. I post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'll see you guys on the next vid.